Hi everyone, it's Mr. Banish, and in this video we're going to take a look at biomes. In the picture that's shown is the world, and you can see that there's a bunch of different colors that are on there. Each one of those colors represents a different biome. And to start with, we need to make sure that we understand that a biome is going to be a group of land ecosystems with similar climates and organisms. Okay, so that's the definition of a biome. So our definition of a biome is going to be a group of land ecosystems with similar climates and organisms. Now, we talked about ecosystems last year, that it's both in the living and non-living parts of where an organism lives. And so a biome is going to be similar climates and organisms. And when we're talking about climates, we're basically referring to similar types of temperatures and amounts of rainfall. Okay, so that is going to be how we base biomes by definition. So it's the group of land ecosystems and climates and organisms, and that includes temperature and rainfall. So let's take a look at each one of the biomes. And so to start with, we're going to begin with the rainforest biome, which is going to consist of two parts. One that you're familiar with, which is going to be called the tropical rainforest. The tropical rainforest is going to be found mostly near the equator. So because of the fact that it's near the equator, it's going to receive a lot of rainfall due to the evaporation. Because of Earth's it gets the most sunlight there, so there's going to be a lot of direct sunlight, which is going to result in evaporation. And rainfall that's going to fall back down into this area. It's going to have warmer temperatures, and it's going to be humid. There's going to be a large variety of plants and animals that are found in this area. And one of the neat things about these biomes is because there's so much grasses and there's so much types of trees and plants, and I shouldn't say grasses because they're plants and trees that exist, but we break this down into two parts. We can say that the top part is going to be what is known as the canopy, and kind of along the middle area, the shorter trees and the vines are going to be called the understory. Okay, so we can break that down because of such, because of the large amount of plant life that exists there. And so the rainforest is going to be found mostly near the equator. And there's a large variety of animals too. Since we have such a wide variety of plants, there's going to also be a large amount of animals as well. And so that introduces a term that's called biodiversity. Okay, so there is a large amount of biodiversity that exists in the tropical rainforest. The other type of rainforest is the temperate rainforest. And so a lot of times when we talk about rainforest, we always think of like warm, wet conditions. And it doesn't always have to be that way. When we talk about rainforest, what we're actually saying is that there's a large amount of rain that occurs. And another type is called the temperate rainforest. This is located in the western part of the United States, out by the state of Washington and Oregon. And so you can see that it looks different than the tropical rainforest, but again, because of the fact that it receives almost 300 centimeters of rain, that means that there's a lot of precipitation that comes down, and so we can categorize it as a rainforest. Again, you start to see a large variety of plants and animals that exist, but now the temperatures are not warm all year round. In fact, it gets rather cool in the state of Washington and Oregon during the winter months. They receive but the rainfall is actually what makes them into rainforests. Some of the types of trees that exist out there are going to be things like cedars and redwoods, the Douglas fir, and they have what we would consider to be moderate temperatures. So it's not super cold, but it's also not super warm either. So moderate temperatures. Okay, so that's the rainforest biomes. Another type of biome is going to be the desert biome. Deserts are area that receive 25 centimeters or less per year. So if we give a definition of 25 centimeters or less of rain per year, that is going to be what we would consider to be the desert. Deserts have warmer temperatures. There's a great amount of evaporation that's occurring. And organisms must be able to withstand long periods of drought. And so if they're able to do that, they would be able to survive in the desert. And so we have a camel, and then we also have different types of cactus trees that would be growing in the desert biome. So deserts are areas that receive 25 centimeters or less. They're warm, and they're going to have animals and plants that are going to be able to withstand long droughts. Grasslands. Grasslands have rich soil that is able to support the grasses of being able to live there. These get more rainfall than deserts, and a grassland is an area that's populated mostly by grasses and non-woody plants. So one of the interesting things is sometimes you'll hear people refer to a savanna and a grassland, and those are two different things. A grassland is going to be made up out of the tall grasses. A savanna is going to be having basically shrubs and trees as their main type of types of plants, and they'll have some shorter grasses as well. So two different types. So there's going to be the grassland and also the savanna. Alright, and these two things are separate, but they both make up what we would consider to be the grassland biome. The grasslands get about 25 to 75 centimeters each year of rain, and because that's not a lot of rain, they are often very susceptible to fires and droughts. And because of those fires, what happens is it actually puts a lot of nutrients and minerals back into the soil, which allows for these grasses to regrow again. The deciduous forests are the ones that are found around our area. Deciduous forests are going to mean that they are able to shed their leaves. So in the fall, you notice that the trees will turn to these reds and oranges and yellows for colors, and then eventually the leaves will fall off, and they'll regrow them each year. So some examples of trees would be oak trees and maple trees. These receive about 50 centimeters per year, and the temperatures vary between warm seasons and cold seasons, which we know. We're in a transition right now in the fall to getting cooler temperatures. Eventually it'll become cold out, and then it'll start to warm back up springtime, and then summer will warm again. So we're familiar with the deciduous forest. The boreal forest is, if you were to go up towards Canada and further north, you would start to run into what we would consider to be the boreal forest. The boreal forest is made up out of coniferous trees. Coniferous trees are ones that basically have seeds that develop into cones, and so we will oftentimes talk about like the taiga as being a type of boreal forest where you have different types of evergreens. The winters here are very cold, and the summers vary where it's not real warm, but it does allow for a growing season, just enough for the snow to melt. And so the boreal forest is another type of biome. Finally, the tundra. The tundra is going to have the coldest biome, and it is going to have an extremely short growing season. It's extremely cold in this biome. There's no more precipitation than a desert, and so oftentimes like some of these areas can be considered a desert due to our definition of having less than 25 centimeters per year of rainfall. And because of the fact that the ground is frozen most of the year, they have something that's called permafrost. And so permafrost is going to be where you have, you're going to have frozen soil. Okay, so frozen soil is going to be a result of this permafrost that exists, and because of the fact that it doesn't have a long growing season at all. In fact, it's minimal, if that. Only the top layer is going to be able to frost out. And so because of this, a lot of times there's marshy areas because the water collects in the when it does finally melt for that brief period at the top layer. It's going to be a very wet area. It's going to have lots of puddles, and it's going to have very marshy type of areas. And so those are the biomes, and here's another picture as well of the short growing season in the tundra. But those are the biomes. There's 6 of them. Make sure that you know them and understand that they each have different types of climates, which includes temperatures and rainfall. All right, I hope that helps.